evening. Welcome to another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Tears presented by the Fantasyholics. With us, as always, is wide receiver one room, Zach Rom, Castle Black, Brian Brunner, Mr. Vito here. Happy daylight savings time to those who celebrate. Holy cow! Day one of NFL free agency was something that we've never seen before. It was just like, I couldn't even comprehend the moves that were going on and the implications on the fantasy aspect. Like, wow! Like, have you ever seen a day like that in your fantasy football career?
Not that I can remember, for sure. I mean, that was crazy, and so many of the moves were involving like the four positions for fantasy football. I mean, There was definitely big news with some defenders and like Linderbaum getting signed, but I mean, so many relevant running backs in particular. But you know, all the positions have at least a couple of names to talk about. Fucking wild, man. I was at work and it was really busy. People are getting their tax returns back, so they love fucking wasting that shit on cell phones and watches, shit like that. So I've been like rocking busy at work. So like I have my little tablet on my table that I just like leave ESPN on. It's a little tactic to help me sell the tablets, but it's also, you know, something to look at for me and for the customer. But I couldn't keep an eye on it. And like one of my coworkers that's into football, he just kept shouting out, "Dude, ETN to the Saints," or, you know, just whatever was happening. I was like, holy shit. So a lot to take in, man, a lot to really digest for fantasy. I will say this though. These guys, most of them were like already relevant, and they're still relevant. And I think it's a little, despite how much crazy news it was, I don't think it's really changing too many people's value by too much from where we already had them. It's certainly some exceptions to that, but I think like ETN on the Saints, how much better is that than ETN on the Jags? You know what I mean? Like, it's exciting. It's news. It's definitely like fun to talk about. It gets, you know, people putting people on the trade block as always, but I think it might be just super exciting, but not as like groundbreaking or like value changing as some people might think it really is.
Yeah, I think that led to the flurry of what happened yesterday, in that you didn't have, it seemed like a weaker free agency class. Like, you didn't have a couple elite people coming into free agency. And I think what that allowed was you weren't waiting to see where those people landed and hear those contracts before the wave of everyone else signing fell. It was almost a free-for-all because you didn't have those elite assets that everyone's like, you know, you still had some strong players, you know, Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. You had some strong guys, but none on the elite tier hitting free agency. That it was just, okay, just start signing people left and right, because, you know, if you don't do it now, you're dropping a huge tier. It was a lot of middle to high, above middle of the pack players that we have that signed. And as you said, Brian, I would agree. There's not a lot that drastically changed value based upon teams, because these were, you know, solid guys, and pretty much anywhere they went, they were going to stay solid guys. Like, there were some that you could debate if they gained value because they were backups before and they might be starters now and such, but none that all of a sudden you look at it and are like, okay, this guy's value doubled or even increased by, you know, 1.5 times. Like, great spot. Like, got some great spots, but value-wise, it's very similar to where they were before.
Tons of news, though. Tons to talk about. Tons of adjusted value for not just these guys. I think maybe the bigger value adjustments come to the teammates of these guys that just got signed. Some people just being almost wiped off the face of the earth when it comes to value, and some guys gaining some value because of who left, or, you know, things like that. So, you know, big news all around. Definitely sends shock waves through all the fantasy value and stuff. So we'll hit on all that. We'll touch on all the big moves. Good to be drinking a beer and talking football with you guys, man. I said, man, it's been tax season at work, so it's just been fucking nonstop, dude. I clock in and I just feel like I'm getting just punched in the face for 9 hours and then I get to leave.
Yeah, then you get to talk fantasy football with us. So it's a win-win,
Much
right?
better. Oh my God,
Yeah.
much better.
So we'll start. We'll start with the Max Crosby news before diving into free agency. We'll talk about those who haven't been signed and then dive into the signings. Just Max Crosby there was a trade agreement with the Ravens. The Ravens would send their 26th first, which I believe was the 14th overall, and their 27th first to the Raiders for Max Crosby. Well, today came out hour or two ago that Max Crosby failed his physical, and the Ravens are making the trade null and void. Max Crosby goes back to the Raiders. He gets to go out and find a deal elsewise. It's very interesting to see the different points of view as to what is happening here with Max Crosby, as to was it the Raiders who really played up that he's doing so well and they just thought the Ravens would accept Crosby in his rehab wherever he was at? Was it Max Crosby kind of not really diving as deep into his rehab because he was done with the Raiders and he was going to wait until he went somewhere else? But it seems like a couple news sources I'm seeing were saying that other GMs, other organizations thought this was just a bad faith move by the Ravens, that it was almost like nitpicking just the health of Crosby, of wherever he was at, whatever physical happened, that it was you should have just accepted him as he was. He's coming off season-ending injury. His rehab is going to take time. Kind of reminds me, I remember hearing the story of how the Patriots traded for Randy Moss of, okay, Randy, you got to, it's 7 p.m. You got to come to Foxborough and we're going to have to give you a physical and re-sign you a deal by noon. And Belichick goes, okay, we're going to give you a physical. Okay, you feel good. Like, you don't have a fever. You're good to go. Like, that's where a lot of these physicals come in. And it seems like some organizations are upset. Granted, the Ravens have the right to do that, but saying the Ravens should have just accepted. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen to Max Crosby. If he still gets 2 firsts, if teams are going to shy away from him because of what happened. Just wanted to lay that out. What you guys think of this situation?
Go, Patrick.
Yeah, I remember late last year when Crosby was placed on the season-ending IR, there was video of him running around he has a personal full-court basketball arena at his house and just hitting fadeaway jumpers, and the jury was like, Crosby looks pretty healthy to me. What fast one are the Raiders pulling? Are the Raiders shutting down Crosby early to get an extra loss or two to really solidify that first overall pick? But then the Ravens offered 2 firsts for this injured player. Like, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But it really, really screws Crosby's value because there's 30 other teams that are now hesitating on giving up draft capital, money, guaranteed contracts. Like, no one's doing Crosby a solid here. And it could be just through nobody's fault except the Ravens and Raiders playing this game of chicken on, is he healthy? Is he not healthy? Is he worth it? Is he not worth it? It's going to cost Crosby quite a bit, it feels like.
I mean, this kind of seems like, to relate it to fantasy and dynasty terms, the Raiders made that drunken trade offer that was a little too steep. The Raiders accepted it. And then the next morning in the chat, they're going, can we reverse this? I only meant to send one of the first. I misclicked. Because, 2 firsts is a lot. But, I mean, if Crosby's, unless he's got some weird medical defect where, like, he's just out, he's worth 2 firsts. He's one of the best edge rushers in the league. He's not, like, ancient. I'm not sure off the top of my head how old he is, but I don't think he's, like, at the end of the line or anything like that. So a player of his caliber can easily warrant 2 firsts. I mean, you figure the one this year was higher, 14, because the Ravens had their worst season in a while. But you'd also have to believe that if they get Crosby, Lamar's right, Derrick Henry's still there, they're going to be a very good team again. So you figure that 27 pick would be a late one. It's odd. I mean, we can speculate all we want, but we have no idea what that physical really turned up, or if the Ravens really did just kind of regret the trade and use the physical to get out of it. Because again, that is their right. I mean, the team trading for the player has every right to give a physical and say, okay, now we'll process the trade, or hey, this guy's got a fucking ingrown toenail or whatever it is that we don't want him. So yeah, we can talk about it, but we'll find out eventually. I did see a sleeper blurb right after it said that they reversed the trade, or reneged on the trade, that the Cowboys would still want to trade for him. So figured Jerry could throw some picks and a big bag of money at him. We'll see.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's going to end up that some team is still going to send 2 first for him at some point. It seems like if teams are saying the Ravens are being picky, that another team's going to come up. It might not be the 14th overall. It might be a mid to late first this year and first next year, but it seems like another team will come in, assuming it's on the Raiders or Ravens side of things and not the Crosby side of things, for sure.
Who else isn't that upset about this deal?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and Mason Rudolph. Or the rest of the AFC North is like, holy shit, that was close.
Yep.
Just to throw it out there too, I don't think I've ever heard anything but positive about Max Crosby as like a human being / teammate too. Like I don't think there's anything like diva going on, or like any off-field nonsense. Like everything I've ever seen about him seems to be like his teammates love him, the coaches love him. So I think this really it's just one of two things. It's either the Raiders like legitimately regretted that trade and wanted to back out of it, or there's actually something wrong with him physically. So we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. We have our first question of the night. Again, as we're talking about all this, if you have questions, comments, anything like that, please feel free to post them. This is partially related to free agency because we saw Kenneth Walker go to the Chiefs. Are you going to take the rookie 105 for Rashee Rice? Cut ties with Rashee Rice. Don't worry about those legal problems that seem to just keep popping up. If you could comment if it's super flex, number of teams, that would be a little helpful here. But whether, if you can give your thoughts on one quarterback or super flex while we wait, what are your thoughts on 105 for Rashee Rice versus kind of the little higher picks? But what do you think?
Just off the first gut feeling of it, and if we're talking super flex, you've got Love is the easy 101. We've discussed it. There's probably like 3 or 4 wide receivers that are going to be highly drafted, first round NFL draft picks, maybe 5 even. And then you've got Mendoza, depending on your needs, if it's super flex. All right, so 1 QB, Mendoza's out. So now we're literally just talking about the skill position guys. So at that point, you figure the 105 is going to land you either the 4th best wide receiver, or maybe Sadiq if it's like a high tight end premium or you need tight end. I'm probably the resident Rice truther. I took him, early second in our mock we did the other week. So that being said, I'm happy to just keep Rice over the 105. I mean, I know the dude has plenty of risk. It's just shit after shit on the, off the field. But at the end of the day, like I said in the mock, there's speculation. It's, there's no hard sentencing or like something, suspension we're talking about right now. Yeah. And Rashee Rice, when he's been on the field since his first game in the NFL, has been fantastic for fantasy football. Like game changer, 17, 18 points a week type of dude. I'm just keeping Rashee Rice for that over, the 5th best rookie or 4th best rookie receiver. that we don't even know if he's good yet. So give me Rice. I'll eat the risk.
Yeah, for me, this is a draft day trade. I'm not doing it beforehand because when you're looking at it in one quarterback, you got Love, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, and Carnell Tate as your top four that pretty much any draft board, any team is going to say these are probably your top four wide receivers or top four picks. Those are pretty much the top four players plus Sadiq guaranteed to go in the first round of the NFL draft. There's thought of players, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion going in the late first, but we really don't know landing spots or draft capital for really anyone outside of those top four. And unless it's a heavy tight end premium, that's way too early for Sadiq. If you're talking to this group where warp charts win over replacement players, tight ends are very replaceable. So, unless it's, 1+ tight end premium, you're not going to hear us suggesting taking Sadiq that early. So for me, that's a draft day trade because then I'll know what's going on with these other players. Is there another wide receiver I really like that got drafted in the first round of the NFL draft? Is there a running back that snuck in or it went to great spots in the second round of the draft? Like that to me is really dependent on that fifth spot that I'm not taking that risk right now.
Yeah, for me, it depends on where is the first that you own. If you already own like 1-4, 1-6, 1-7, and you can get fifth and like 2 top 7 picks to parlay that into maybe if you can trade, say, 1-5 and 1 to move up. If you get like 1-5 and 1-7 to move up to 1-2, or could you spin that into a later first round pick this year and a 2027 first? Like, if you can end up with 2 top 7 picks from this deal, I think I'd do it. Like another dart throw. Like Mahomes might be out for a portion of the year. Rice has off-field troubles, then hurt his knee. I would do a reroll if you're picking high enough on your own pick that you already own. In addition to 1-5, I'd do it. I'd go for it because you can pivot a couple different ways from there.
I like what you said, Zach. It's a draft day trade to me. Like, or at least maybe not draft day, but I want to see how the NFL draft plays out. So maybe post NFL draft, pre-rookie draft, when you have a much better idea of those landing spots. I think the thing that could sway me to just taking the pick and selling Rice for that 1-5 is if we end up having, say the next 2 highest rated running backs after Love both go to really choice locations like day 2, round 2, round 3 draft capital, the good locations where they're going to be instantly valuable for fantasy. If the top 3 wide receivers all go to like really nice landing spots that we like their value, then you're looking at, okay, that 105 is actually pretty sexy / safe-ish. And then at that point, I'd be not happy, but I'd be much more inclined to sell Rice for that. But again, I've been a huge Rice fan since he hit the league, and yes, it's been a headache, and the suspensions and shit suck. But when he's on the field, man, he's fucking awesome. They use the shit out of him. He's got that chemistry thing with Mahomes where the play breaks down and he just finds him and makes shit happen. So I still think Rashee Rice is going to be notably better for fantasy, at least this year, than who you're taking it at the rookie 105.
Yep. And then to cap off our Crosby signing, a very nice comment from Kevin. Regular crazy. The Bears trade DJ Moore, cut some people seemingly to free up cap space for Crosby. They spend $100 million because Crosby got traded, and now Crosby's can be traded again. And I think that sums up one thing we didn't mention about Crosby is this really impacts so many teams that were going to trade for Crosby, but now don't have cap space. And the problem is you're not going to get a Crosby trade completed have him come in for a physical to change some of these free agent contracts, because really these contracts don't really kick in till the turn of the new NFL season tomorrow, but you're not getting Crosby in to get that physical and get this trade figured out before then. So it really limits where Crosby is going to be able to go for a trade. It kind of screws the Raiders. It screws a lot of different teams just because of how it went down and when it went down. That's a very interesting and very good point there to kind of transition off of that Crosby thought. But we're going to dive into our signings. But first, I'm just going to mention a couple notable players who have not signed to a team yet. And just if we want to give our thoughts, if you guys want to give thoughts on, either best landing spot, or if there's any notable person that you think should briefly talk about. But running back wise, the two main ones are Aaron Jones and Rashad White have not been signed. Wide receivers, Juwan Jennings, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Deebo Samuel. Quarterbacks, you got Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray. And tight ends, you got Chigakonkwo, Dallas Goedert, and Njoku. Now, I think for Kyler Murray and Stephon Diggs, who are cut, technically teams can't talk to them until tomorrow because they were cut so close, and you can't talk to them until that cut goes through on the turn of the year. So that's it for Murray and Diggs. But we have all the others that kind of went through, and you quote unquote have Daniel Jones unsigned in that they're still trying to work a long-term deal. Someone can try and offer it, and then the Colts have to match it. So there's some nuance to Daniel Jones, some too. But any players there that you think are notable to kind of talk about briefly before we dive into signings?
I would toss Kirk Cousins into that quarterback mix too, because they already said that they'll free him up on the league rollover date, so he'll be there. I mean, the Vikings seem to have expressed some level of interest in Kyler, and now that like almost all of these guys, have been locked up or traded or agreed to terms, their options are pretty limited. It's like stick with McCarthy, which I don't think that's their game plan. They seem to want to move on. Aaron Rodgers could go the Brett Favre full career arc. He did make the extra stop with Pittsburgh, but he could go there to do the Favre thing. I mean, I guess probably Kyler to the Vikings would be the most exciting thing, and it's been hinted at. And I mean, it would make sense for the Vikings too. I guess anything's really a step up from what they have now. So I think Rodgers or Kyler will probably end up there. I guess Cousins. I mean, Cousins has ties with the Vikings. Like maybe they bring him back.
Interesting.
The Vikings are a much better team than the Cardinals, but at what point do you say, you know what, let's just do what the Cardinals did. We're going to roll with Brissett. We'll bring in like a capable backup. We're good, but we're not a fucking Super Bowl team in 2026. Let's just be serviceable and really shoot to get our new quarterback in like 2027. And they just don't bring anybody in. They just stick with McCarthy and just give him another year and just bring in some, I don't know, fill in quarterback, fucking, I don't know, Case Keenum or some stupid shit, like just a generic capable NFL backup, and just kind of roll with that. But I guess Kyler there's the most exciting thing, or would be the most exciting thing for fantasy and for Justin Jefferson's value.
Yeah.
Man, I've said his name multiple times. I don't know how he's not getting more love. Rashad White. Rashad White was running back 4 in 2023. He had a 990-yard season. If Rashad White signs with the Seahawks, with Zach Charbonnet nursing an ACL tear, that could be a tremendous, like, out of nowhere, like an afterthought to if Rashad White is the lead back and he gets the similar workload that Kenneth Walker did. Holy cow. He could go from afterthought to like third round pick in a redraft or I don't know if obviously a startup, not that early, but Rachaad White could be a colossal buy low now in hopes that he signs somewhere, because with Bucky Irving and Kenneth Gainwell in Tampa, like he's out of Tampa, and there's a lot of good backfields that need a starter, and Rachaad White has proven to be a legitimate running back one in fantasy.
Yeah, I think that's the most surprising one for me is just, granted, it could be the dynasty community just hyping him up and what he's done before. It could be he's asking for too much in a contract as to why he hasn't been signed. It seemed like he was going to be one of the ones to fall day one, and then it's ended day two, and we've heard nothing. And so it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what happens with him. Kevin, again, bringing up someone that I didn't mention, Keaton Mitchell, who showed some life his rookie year, it seemed, and then Derrick Henry got brought in, likely got moved. Keaton Mitchell is an interesting one. I liked him a little coming out too. He just never had the opportunity. And it seems like depending on where he goes, obviously, he may never get that opportunity. But Keaton Mitchell did look very interesting his rookie year before some injuries and Derrick Henry coming in. So that's one to keep an eye out on too.
He destroyed his knee. He had a really, really nasty knee injury, but he came back late last year. He's still got some juice, but yeah, it's a good take.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to dive into quarterbacks and tight ends because there were only 3 moves quarterback and tight end wise. And as you can see, we've kind of used, we have these players in their new jerseys. So we'll be kind of pointing them out, talking about them. But really, there's only 4 changes, 3 quarterback, 1 tight end of significance to note. You have Isaiah Likely going to the Giants. Geno Smith being traded, technically, even though it was mentioned he was going to be dropped. That drop doesn't go through until the turn of the new year. So the Jets traded a 6th for Geno and a 7th. So a late round pick swap just to get Geno there, not worry about anything else. You got Malik Willis signing with the Dolphins and Tua signing with the Falcons. Yeah. What you guys want to talk about first?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, how dare you besmirch the name of Daniel Bellinger to the Titans? Groundbreaking tight end news that we somehow left off this graphic, but Daniel Bellinger jokes aside, I guess probably the biggest news would be Willis. Malik Willis has such a small sample size, but he looked really fucking good. The bit that he played for Green Bay, he looked excellent. Good for real life football and good for fantasy. He gets, for his limited sample size, he gets quite the bag. He's obviously locked in to be their guy for a couple years, so I think we got to be hype about that. He's mobile. He'll get you some rushing yards. Most places I've looked at and pods I've listened to in the last 24, 48 hours seem to be having Malik Willis ranked like right at that borderline fantasy starter, as far as at least for like redraft for next year. And I think that checks out. But, if you got some dynasty shares of him, it's just, in Superflex especially, it's just so awesome. You went from having a dude that you just held on to because he was a solid backup, and now, boom, you've got a locked-in starting quarterback with some rushing upside. So that's pretty cool. I'd say good for Waddle. I mean, again, such a small sample size. It's hard to say like he's better at passing than Tua. It's easy to overlook the fact that Tua had monstrous passing seasons like those first 2 years with McDaniel. Like, Tua's a capable quarterback. He gave Tyreek Hill back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. The only time a receiver's ever done that, apparently. I heard that stat somewhere. So Tua is certainly capable. Is this a step up? I mean, it's a new coaching regime there, new quarterback, so remains to be seen. But I think you can't not be excited for this and happy about this for Waddle, for Achane, just in general. So I like that.
Yeah, it's like the ghosts of Matt Flynn are being exercised. Like, are we putting too much weight into a little bit of good quarterback play from a Packers quarterback? And Willis gets the bag, although the Titans chose Will Levis over him. Like, we can't, I guess the Titans aren't the best measuring stick of an NFL franchise. Willis looked really, really good in limited action last year. The Dolphins are picking 11th overall. Is that the range of like Mekhi Lemon? If they get Lemon, Jalen Waddle, if Achane's still there, it could be a tremendous opportunity for Willis. I'm cautiously optimistic. And the mobility, the Tua hasn't had that mobility since the hip injury. This could be a fantasy darling or a fantasy abyss. But optimistic. I hope Willis succeeds. Great dude on and off the field. But I don't know how much I'm offering up for him. I don't have any shares of him. I don't know where I'm taking him in a startup or a redraft. But there's worse situations. He could be. It could be the story of the year, like the comeback story of the year.
Let me just throw in this little nugget about Willis. I'm sure you guys remember this. Right up until like a week before the NFL draft that year,
yes,
he was the Vegas betting favorite to be the 101.
Mm-hmm.
And he, ended up plummeting all the way down to, I believe, a 4th round pick. But I know this, remember this vividly, because almost every league that I play in with all the South Harmon guys do pre-NFL draft rookie drafts. Because that's the thing, they're real big about, college scouting and just having your gut feelings about players and like really putting it to the test and drafting the guys you want without seeing their landing spot. Malik Willis might have been the 101 or the 102 in every fucking one of those drafts because, again, he was the betting favorite to be the rookie 101 or the NFL 101. So,
yep.
Not that was some great quarterback class or Willis was some super high-level blue-chip prospect, but the world and the betting world and the NFL world, at least for whatever reason, right up until a week before the draft, felt highly about him. So it wasn't super shocking to see that he perform well when given the chance to play over the last couple of years there with Green Bay.
Yeah, and when you look at the both, I want to talk about Miami and then Green Bay for Willis. Is you can't get much worse passing wise than Tua for the sake of Waddle and their pass catchers. Looking at it, Waddle had the 5th lowest average depth of target. And when you have a speedy Jalen Waddle, you need to get that ball downfield. You need to extend the play. And it seemed like Miami was purposely calling short plays and such to protect Tua. And now with Malik Willis and his speed, it should open it up a little. Doesn't have the best sample size for passing. Thankfully for fantasy, he's a better rusher. And so that's going to help his fantasy value versus NFL value. There are the 4 starting quarterbacks below Tua in average depth of target. Bryce Young, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff. But when you look at Goff, you're looking at getting the ball to Gibbs on screens, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like you're getting these quick, big playmakers for Goff that the other ones are just kind of they either didn't have the time or need to develop. So for Willis, I like his rushing capabilities for fantasy to give a good floor. Passing can't get worse than Tua. I like it for Achane. Rushing quarterbacks help running backs because it opens up the lanes more. When you're not sure who's going to be rushing the ball, or you can't, throw as much at the running back if the quarterback's going to roll out. Like, rushing quarterbacks do help running backs. So I like it for A-Chain and Waddle for sure. I do think they're going to add someone. There's not really much left free agency wise besides some old vets. So I think in the draft, expect them to add someone. On the flip side, Green Bay, there were Packers fans that loved Willis. I was seeing so much love for Willis, saying leading up to the playoff game against the Bears, with people saying if we had Willis, we would win this game. Or afterwards, they said if we had Willis, we would have won this game, but we lost it because we had Love and not Willis. I'm like, that's a bold take for Willis. But granted, Willis, when he came in for Jordan Love in that second regular season game, when Love got injured, looked great, just rushing. Like, he had the Bears defense in shambles. So Willis does have some merit. And it's a 3-year, $67 million contract, which seems like a lot, but quarterback wise, it's not a whole lot, as crazy as it sounds. So it's something that, again, if they don't think Willis is a thing, you draft a quarterback next year, you have Willis for another year, you cut him and develop a quarterback for a year and you're good to go. So it's, the Dolphins is a good situation for Willis, and they're in a good situation kind of going into this next year. I like what the Dolphins are doing.
Just to throw this out there, I pulled up Willis's stats. I didn't realize how fucking small his sample size is, man.
Oh, yeah.
Just looking at the last 2 years. So 2 years ago, 2024, he started week 2 against the Colts, home against the Colts, and he was the quarterback 20 on the week. Played 100% of snaps, had like 12 fantasy points, 13 fantasy points, depending on your scoring. Certainly nothing that was getting teams hype about him. He started again week 3 because Jordan Love was still out. He was the quarterback 6 on the week, scored you like 26 fantasy points. Definitely looks solid. So that's one of the shining marks on his resume. He didn't take another like snap until a couple meaningless snaps in week 18 that year. So there you go. One less than mid game and one solid game. And then last year, didn't do anything, didn't even really take a snap until the very end of the season.
Yep.
Week 16, he came in for an injured Love. That one you can kind of ease or stat away because he only played like 2/3 of the game. He got you like 12 fantasy points, whatever. He was thrust into action cold. I don't really like to hold that against anybody. So that game is kind of a nothing. And then here's what just made him $60 million. Week 17 against the Ravens. By week 17, the Ravens' defense was healthy, so it was against a good opponent. He had 31 fantasy points, quarterback 3 on the week. He went 18 of 21 for 288 and a touchdown, and then he also had 60 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
So for our fantasy purposes, bravo. I mean, think about it. Like, he more or less just got that contract all based on that game. And it was awesome. It was impressive as hell. I mean, he knew he was probably playing for a big contract, so he had all the motivation in the world. But just wanted to point out, his sample size is legitimately like 3.5 games, basically, and 2 of them were kind of mediocre.
Yeah, he started 6 games. Now don't besmirch me for saying this. Jalen Hurts light potential.
Sure.
I mean, when you look at Jalen Hurts, not the best thrower, but a great rusher, mobile. That would be, he doesn't have nearly the offensive weapons as Hurts, but it's very interesting to see. You immediately think of some of the comparisons. You think of Kyler Murray some too and such, but more my immediate thought is Hurts. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm still going Matt Flynn. One good game, monster contract from the Seahawks. He was immediately replaced by Russell Wilson, and the rest is history. Willis will be better than that, but it's still an extremely small sample size to dole out a bag like that.
Yeah. So I'd like to take this time to point out how how awful the Falcons front office really looks overall after all this, because let's follow the timeline here. Let's give Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed. In the same offseason, let's take a quarterback that no one thought should be a first-round drafted NFL quarterback, an injured Michael Penix. Let's spend a top 10 pick on him right after giving Cousins $100 million.
Yep.
Let's give that 2 seasons to just fail and stew, and now let's go sign Tua.
I like the Tua signing.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the Tua signing. I'm just pointing out like how poorly fucking run. What a just a disaster of fucking moves there by them. And yeah, I'm not against the Tua signing. I was just saying. I mean, he led the NFL in passing a couple years ago. He gave Tyreek Hill some phenomenal seasons. He gave Waddle a phenomenal season. He just gave Waller a fucking a solid season. So he's capable. I think it's safe to say that he's a better, more proven quarterback than you're going to get from Penix or from like the shell of Kirk Cousins. So yeah, not saying I dislike the signing, but I just remember when I saw it, I was like, man, who the fuck is running that team? It's like a Cleveland Browns-esque fucking tragedy there. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we get some good high volume to it and help out Pitts in London for sure.
I want to look at this and point out this. I think Michael Penix is still the quarterback when he comes back from injury, but whether he's ready to start the season or not is yet to be determined. When you're looking at preparing for a season, your receivers receiving the ball, your offensive line, how they function, Michael Penix is a left-handed quarterback. Tua is a left-handed quarterback. Signing Tua is the best thing for the Falcons without knowing Penix is ready, because you're not changing how your left tackle versus right tackle, how your receivers see the ball coming. You're not changing all of that based upon right-handed versus left-handed quarterback, which does change because your blind side changes from the left side of the line to the right. How the ball comes out spirals the other way. Like, Tua is a great signing for the interim before Penix, because no matter who's at quarterback there, that offense is going to function the same and not all of a sudden change to, okay, now we have to understand a right-handed quarterback to left-handed. Like, I like it purely for how the offense can now flow moving forward with their 2 potential starting quarterbacks being left-handed. That's despite the fact that Tua led the league in passing yards or did really great a few seasons ago. Like, just for the fact of left-handed and left-handed, I think that's a great move for the Falcons to be able to prepare and have whoever ready to succeed. But I still think Penix will take over. But I think just from that aspect, it was a great move.
It's a good
Yeah, it's
strategy.
crazy to think that
Just because they can look at it like this. If Tua comes in and does really well, they can say, hey, Penix, even though you're healthy, we've got an established veteran here. The team's playing well. We're winning. We're just going to let you sit and learn. And if Tua comes in and it's shaky and rocky and not going well, week 7 or 8 or something, Penix is healthy, they can go, hey, thanks for filling in Tua. Penix, you're back in there. Go ahead. So it does give them it gives them a good way to go. Regardless how the season starts. And I didn't even think about the left-handed quarterback thing. That is certainly something to factor in. There's so few of them out there.
Yeah.
It weirds me out watching all of them. I don't like watching left-handed quarterbacks. It makes me feel like my brain's not working right or something.
Yeah.
Geno, I guess by default, they're just going to make him the starter for this year. They seem to be spending lots of money. They're making trades. They're franchised tall. They've signed some pretty big names on defense. I guess kind of looking at it similar to the Cardinals again, where they're like, look, we're not winning a Super Bowl this year. Let's not just go spend some crazy money on a quarterback or overpay or overdraft some rookie in the top of the first that doesn't deserve to be drafted there. Just Geno's capable. Geno has given some wide receivers some really solid seasons. I guess he's probably better for Garrett Wilson than Justin Fields would be. I assume, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a feeling that the Jets, unless they, I mean, of course, the Jets are a poorly run franchise. They still might take one of these rookies higher than he should be. But if it is Geno and Justin Fields, I can pretty much guarantee you it will be just them two losing games and flip-flopping back and forth on who's starting whatever week based on how the coach feels or whatever the case. So both of them worth rostering in Superflex. You're not dropping either of them in dynasty leagues, but this is better. If you have shares of Geno Smith, this is good. This is solid news.
Yeah.
You can at least keep him and start him in a pinch in a bye week or for an injury or something like that if he happens to be the starter that week. But if you roster Geno and Fields, you can pretty much pencil in that you have a starting quarterback for the entirety of the season.
I think for everyone on the Jets offense except Fields, this is a good thing. I think just passing wise for Garrett Wilson, I think just for Breece Hall, again, rushing quarterbacks help running backs, but Fields wasn't enough of a threat to really help Hall out. I think this will give it better consistency. I expect the Jets to use their second first-round pick. So the Jets have the second overall, the 16th, and then they have the first pick in the second round, the 33rd. I expect them to use the 16th or 33rd for a wide receiver. Just with how it's kind of falling and such. That's kind of one of the top three might be there at 16th overall between Lemon, Tyson, Tate, or you fall into that Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion type of range in that early second. And others potentially Amor Kerboot Jr., Brazel. I think they're going to get another rookie weapon, which will, again, help Geno Smith. Again, I think it kind of falls similar into the Malik Willis tier quarterback, where if I'm competing, I'm not comfortable having him as my quarterback 2, but I'm willing to roll the dice on my 27 second to get him for my quarterback 3 because, well, if I'm really competing, that's a late 27 second. And with how hyped the 27 class is, you might even be able to get more back in return. So I like their potential for sure. And it's better overall for everyone on the Jets offense.
Yeah, and let's not forget how well Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie played last year. Mechie is a free agent. Mitchell's still there. The Jets still have Mason Taylor, the tight end that they drafted very early last year. The Jets have the pieces, but will the Jets not be the Jets? There's some potential there, and if they add a receiver in the first 2 rounds, there's a lot to be optimistic about. I don't hate it. That there's worse quarterback moves. There are worse there's worse players like JJ McCarthy. There's some bad opportunities out there, but Geno could piece something nice together with the weapons around him. The Jets aren't the worst offense that I can think of, and that's saying something.
Then finally, in the background of this, we have Isaiah Likely, getting quarterback and tight ends because there are so few moves. Isaiah Likely got signed to the Giants, going back to his former head coach, John Harbaugh, replacing, was it Bellinger that got signed and moved? Theo Johnson is there, but who did well with Jackson Dart. But it seems like the Giants wanted to add someone else, whether that's Likely takes on the tight end 1 role, if it's a tight end 1A and B, similar to the Ravens with Likely. But it seems like this isn't the worst place for Likely to end up, that he's going to have some good potential with the Giants, with, again, Harbaugh, who drafted him, who brought him in. I like this landing spot for Likely. I still don't think he's going to live up to his where the dynasty community has him. Like, he's been a top 10 dynasty tight end since he entered the league, just because, well, he has the potential. Mark Andrews is going to move on, and he has these big games, but I don't know if he's going to get that consistency. So I like the landing spot, but again, wherever the dynasty community is going to have him, I think this is going to put him in the 6 or 7 range for tight end. Is too pricey for me. He's still a sell.
So it definitely helps. Mark Andrews is probably the biggest winner here because he's now by default like the clear 1A, 1B with, say, Flowers on the Ravens again without likely being there to take him off the field or whatever. So big win for your Mark Andrews shares. But with likely, I think a lot of his actual 2026 and beyond value is going to hinge on if the Giants spend serious draft capital on one of these rookie receivers. If they're like top, 3, 5-ish, 6 maybe?
Giants have the number 5 pick, where many are expecting defense, but there has been talk about a wide receiver there.
Right. And then
otherwise, their next pick is that, again, early second.
205, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you're really going to be able to gauge Likely's value. If they take Tate or Lemon or Tyson, their flavor at wide receiver at 105, I think that puts a pretty solid dent in Likely's value. He'd still be valuable. They didn't just pay him that money to be a blocking tight end or to be like 50-50 split with Theo Johnson. So he's certainly valuable enough. He's shown in small windows that he's a very good pass-catching tight end. So he'll be valuable regardless. But if they really spend up on another rookie wide receiver to have opposite neighbors, I don't think he's going to pay back what he's going to be drafted at or what his trade value is going to be. So good news. Works out for Andrews. I mean, it works out for his value too. If he would have stayed with the Ravens side by side with Andrews on like a run first team, that's not great. So I mean, this is probably about as good as a spot that he could land with a young, capable quarterback. But I really hold off on deeming what his value is until I see what the Giants do in the draft. If they don't draft a receiver, if it's just him and Malik Neighbors, I mean, literally, what else is him, Malik Neighbors, and Darius Slayton? Yeah, likely is going to be worth. He might pay back what his value is. His asking price is at that point.
Yeah, I'm still a little hesitant on Mark Andrews. I'm seeing a lot of people expect like Kenyon Sadiq to go to the Ravens at pick 14 because that's right around where Sadiq is expected. Now, again, who knows if that'll happen, but Sadiq looked amazing at the combine. Athletic tight ends are good, but it's not everything. But Sadiq is someone to look out for to go to the Ravens. This isn't us saying buy low on Andrews. Wait a little on that. But yeah, currently it is a boost in Andrews' value for sure.
Just to check in with Keep Trade Cut, Isaiah Likely didn't really skyrocket from value. He went up a few points, but he's sitting at tight end 15 currently on Keep Trade Cut.
Tight end 11.
I
have it up right here.
I'm showing tight end 15. Let me see. And I do have the tight end premium on. I don't know if that's making a difference or not.
I do too. Likely's tight end 11 right behind Gadsden.
Maybe. Well, I guess I've had the window open in my browser for a while. Let me refresh. Yeah, 11. I guess that's probably a little on the high side.
Yeah, behind and looking at it, 6 or 7 me mentions high. Bowers, McBride, Loveland, Warren, Fannin, Kraft, Laporta, Pitts, Sadiq are probably solidified in your top 9. Likely is going to be at that 10-11 with Gadsden, Ferguson, Kincaid type thing. Yeah.
It feels like Likely could be a tremendous sell high because if Malik Neighbors isn't fully recovered from the knee injury, Wan'Dale Robinson is gone. Is Cam Scatterbo healthy? Do the Giants take another receiver? Like, likely could be a tremendous pass catching option early going into the year. Harbaugh loves him. Likely signed there for a reason. I would sell immediately if Likely has a strong start to the year.
Yeah. Speaking of tight ends, we do have a comment real quick of where's Laporta. So in Keep
Sure.
Trade Cut, he's tight end 7, which seems right around the right spot coming off injury and such in that crowded Detroit offense. Having Loveland, Warren, who seem to have a little more oomph in their offense, Fannin, who seems to be the only receiving threat, Kraft, who was the only reliable one on the Packers before he got injured. Having him right in that range with, or right behind it with Pitts and Sadiq kind of seems right to me.
Yeah, it checks out. And you're right. I did update, or I closed and reopened Keep Trade Cut, and he is tight end 11 for sure. That's what happens when you leave the browser window open for a week.
Yeah, you're good. Okay. The most impactful position, it seems, as to what happened in this free agency is running backs. We had some big changes. Again, their values seem very similar. If not, some of the lower ones have raised up a little in value. And again, these players are in the New Jersey, so we'll kind of talk you through who's where and such to give some idea. But we have these main 6 signings. Starting left to right, we have Isaiah Pacheco signed as the running back 2 for the Lions. Travis Etienne went to the Saints. And then we have that is Kenneth Gainwell
Gainwell to the Bucks.
Gainwell to the Bucks. Yes. Gainwell to the Bucks. Rico Dowdle to the Steelers. Algier to the Cardinals. And in the background, we have Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. Some big moves, some great moves. What are we thinking?
So the running back position was kind of mainly what I was touching on with. It's huge news and it makes everybody excited about these players, but how much did the value really change? I think obviously the biggest one was Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs, where his value was always kind of capped by Charbonnet. The Seahawks were just very content on doing like a 50-50 thing and like always bringing Charbonnet in at the goal line. Walker's such an odd one because I feel like when you watched any Seahawks game, he would look at times like that's the best fucking running back in football. Just wildly explosive and fast and breakaway speed and juking people in the open field and truck sticking people even because he's not that small. And then he would just run into the back of his offensive line 4 plays in a row and bring his averages down. But now that he gets to go to the Chiefs, they gave him in today's market, top dollar for running back. They don't have anything else there, as we see in the bottom corner there. Pacheco's gone, so it's just the ghost of Kareem Hunt and like Brashad Smith there. He certainly is going to have the opportunity. I think he's the one that, given that he was kind of locked into a timeshare with Charbonnet, he's the one that really could see his value explode, so to speak, where if he's really getting the majority of the work and they're letting him get a lot of, even maybe letting him get more catches than the Seahawks were giving him, given his explosiveness, the fact that he's going to a super well-run, well-organized franchise with a good coach and a good offensive scheme, I think he's the one that could really exceed his previous spot. I think every single one of the rest of these guys, again, ETN is the next guy that'll be drafted as far as like ADP and overall value. But how much more valuable is ETN as the primary back on the Saints than ETN as the primary back on the Jags, who looked awesome, and he looked awesome. So I don't see that much of a change. Again, Pacheco, he gets to go to the Monty role. Gainwell, he's certainly going to have a role with the Bucks, but he had a fucking awesome role with the Steelers. He caught like 80 passes last year, so how much better would he be, or how much worse would he be? Rico, timeshare with Hubbard. Now he's a timeshare with Warren. Algier, a backup to Bijan, and now he's splitting with Connor and Trey Benson. So to me, I think the only one that really potentially could like jump a ton in his value is Walker, given that he's not going to be splitting with Charbonnet anymore.
So yeah, I'm gonna jump with David, who posted a comment as to who I think is going to potentially gain the most value. Mentioning Pacheco signing healed a lot of my sadness and worry seeing Monty traded. In that, sure, Pacheco after his injury didn't quite look the same, but he was also the lead back on the Chiefs in an offense that didn't really want to run the ball because you have Mahomes. When you're looking at Pacheco, just dynasty value-wise, keep trade cut. Pacheco right now is running back 70 behind DJ Giddens, Jaden Blue, Trevor Etienne, not Travis, Trevor Etienne, Rashard Smith, Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker has some value. Even like unsigned players, Vidal did well, but Keaton Mitchell, he's still behind. Like with him being running back 70, I think he's not going to necessarily be startable in any league, but he's going to gain some value and get some back. I expect, not being the primary option, being that playing 30-35% of the snaps, will keep him healthier and let him kind of push into what he needs to. Rather than trying to be that primary running back. I think out of all of them, I think Pacheco has a chance to gain the most value, and especially since you're not going to have to put too much into getting him anywhere.
Just quick asterisk with Pacheco, though. His news broke today. He wasn't a day one of free agency thing. He was signed today to the Lions. And I did just refresh my keep trade cut, so I'm not looking at an old version of it. When you see him down there at running back 7, he has lost like 40-something points in value to drop to there. I think it hasn't reflected at all. His new signing hasn't reflected in keep trade cut yet, because what does reflect in KTC is that Kenneth Walker shot all the way up to running back fucking 9, which I think that's a sell for me, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But the reverse of that is obviously when they signed Walker, the Pacheco shares just plummeted. The fact that he now has a job and he has the Monty role, I think he easily is going to jump up. By the time we're actually like doing anything actionable, he'll be up 30, 40 spots from where he is right now.
Fair enough. That's true.
Yep, my big winners are Dowdle and Algier. If the Steelers' running game made a seemingly afterthought in Kenneth Gainwell, like a legitimate weekly play in fantasy, like Jalen Warren has the pass catching role. He can't hold up to a lead back role. Rico Dowdle has back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. The Steelers will run the ball. The AFC North is one in the trenches. Dowdle has been tremendous the last 2 years in a split role in Dallas and in Carolina. Jalen Warren won't carve into that many touches. He'll have his pass catching back. Man, I really, really like Dowdle there. And James Conner and Trey Benson, I mean, good Lord, that is the epitome of injured running back. Algier has proven he can find the end zone. He has two of the most oft-injured running backs in the league ahead of him. Man, that could be a tremendous opportunity. If Brissett keeps cooking, it's a great opportunity for both. The other, like Pacheco, he's a backup. Gainwell, most likely a backup. Etienne and Walker are who they are. They're going to get the They're going to get a lot of work. They're great running backs, but they're more expensive. People will be fading Dowdle and Dowdle and Algier could be the unsexiest league-winning backs this year. They're just going to have so much volume, and they've produced at a high level, and they're going to tremendous opportunities with a lot of opportunity for volume, targets. I really like those two in the mid to late rounds after the running back dead zone. I really like them both.
Yeah, that's a great point, Patrick. I the way that I play Dynasty in most normal PPR leagues, unless it's like crazy running back boosted scoring with points per carry, I'm spending most of my assets on quarterback and wide receiver, and dudes like current day Algier and Dowdle with the situations they're in. I absolutely love that. I love having multiple of those guys like on my bench or even in a pinch having to start. Great point about look who's in front of Algier at this point. It's fucking James Conner and Trey Benson, who hasn't been able to beat out anybody or stay healthy.
Yeah,
and
Connor can stay healthy.
Connor has, Connor, let's not take anything away. When James Conner's healthy and on the field, he's excellent for fantasy. It has been excellent for fantasy, but he's certainly older and has quite the injury history. So, yeah, Algier will be a target of mine because I don't think a lot of people even realize that. I think a lot of people will continue to look at Algier like, oh, he's a pretty good backup. He'll probably be an okay committee back here. So he's a dude that could really exceed his AD. But let's see where he's at now. See if his value adjusted at all.
As you're looking up that, Joe makes a very good point about Dowdle. Dowdle reuniting with McCarthy, both having been on the Cowboys, reuniting with him at the Steelers.
True. Yeah.
That's not to say that Jaylen Warren's going to be cast out, but the new head coach coming in, bringing in his guy, puts some more merit to Dowdle having potential as that 1A versus Warren 1B type of role.
Algier went up to running back 28, and he is up some points. So his signing definitely was reflected in KTC. Dowdle running back 33, but he's down some points, and I think he was another one that was today as opposed to day one, or was he yesterday as well? Hard to say, but it seems like you'd think his value would have went up a little bit after the new signing. So I don't know if, again, that's one of the things like
it came out last night. I was trying to remember.
Okay.
I was like, it was right around when I was getting in or out of bed, but I couldn't remember. It was later last night.
Yeah, he was after the first few.
Yes.
So yeah, I think maybe his will adjust a little bit, but as of right now, Algier's at running back 28, and it does look like his signing did reflect and go up a little bit. But Dowdle's the running back 33. He might actually shoot up a spot or two once the dust settles. But I've always been a Dowdle guy. I think probably one of the worst arguments I've ever gotten in the Fantasy Holics chat group was with Jay a couple years ago about fucking Rico Dowdle sucking or being mediocre. I was like, he doesn't suck. He's pretty good. Like, one of those classic, nobody ever like changes their mind or backs down in a fantasy football argument. So yeah, I've always been the Rico truther of the group.
Some interesting just breaking news, not huge, but general consensus about the Ravens is that they got cold feet with the Max Crosby deal based upon different factors, presumably how their free agency went, of who they signed and such. They signed people they didn't expected for the defense and such, and just use the physical as an excuse to get out of the deal, and that they could have. And as that news comes, teams are going to be taking that into account when dealing with the Ravens in the near future, whether it's this current GM for however long he's here or whatnot. But that seems to be what's brewing, which makes more sense than Max Crosby not doing his rehab or any sort. That it was just the Ravens being like second guessing, buyer's remorse, as Brian brought up. Oh, you drunk sent out a trade the night before. Can I take this back? Like, they got around some technicalities, which is screwing over so many teams and such. Just a huge move, casting waves after free agency. That's, teams are going to be very hesitant to work with the Ravens now if with that being the case. So that's just a interesting piece of breaking news that seems to be brewing.
Yeah, fair enough, man. But I think we definitely touched on all these guys. It's weird seeing number 14 on the Bucs there because that is Chris Godwin's number.
Yeah,
it keeps making me think we're looking at Chris Godwin. But when you superimpose these guys into their new uniforms, you probably you're gonna get some confusion there. But quite sure Gainwell will end up wearing a different number. Chris Godwin's quite the legend for the Bucs. There's a guy with a value boost. Mike Evans gone, as we'll see on the next screen.
Yeah, crazy enough. Mike Evans, lifelong Buck, huge.
I hate it. I don't like it. I mean, fantasy, we could talk about that, but I just hate it for life in general and for football in general and for Mike Evans. That dude should have fucking retired a Buck. He should have gotten one more 1,000-yard season as a Buck because I believe. No, he lost the streak this year, so
he lost the streak.
But he still should have retired a Buck.
You would have thought that, and in reality, if I'm the 49ers, why would I go after another injury-prone wide receiver? I have so many problems with injuries and my wide receivers staying healthy. Sure, he's a great player, great player. He's older, he's injury-prone. Go after someone who's not. Whoever's in the front office saying, guys who are injury prone, let's bring them here. Let's get something different. But I that was the most surprising move out of everything that happened was Mike Evans not re-signing with the Bucs. I was like, he's going to be a Buck for life. Barely need to report on this. Hey, he's just back there. I wasn't expecting such a drastic change for him.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of just sad. I wish we all could have seen him retire a Buck, but they have the worst injury history there. I don't know if it's something in the water, something in their practice facilities, but you just get hurt if you're a 49er. So the old injury-prone-ish wide receiver Evans here, it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense, but it is what it is. I don't think I really look at his redraft or dynasty value any better or worse than I did on the Bucs. So again, another one where it's this big thing and it's a huge move and oh my God, Mike Evans left the Bucs, but how much better or worse is it for his actual value? To me, not much.
There's less target competition in the fact that he had Godwin and Igbuka, but also you have McCaffrey. There's no really other receiver threat. You have Pearsall who can't stay healthy. Presumably they're going to do something in the draft. That's very interesting to see there. But I'd agree. It's not he might have some more targets going his way, but it doesn't move the needle much for me, just based upon everything.
Yeah, I was thinking Evans was going to sign with the Dolphins and just stay in Florida, stay in the nice warm weather, ride out one random season into the sunset. I love Evans on the 49ers. There's Jennings is a free agent. George Kittle has the Achilles injury. Evans could be peppered. Evans will be peppered with targets as long as he can stay healthy for the 8 to 10 games he'll be active. Pearsall, he's not going to be the first round talent that the 49ers thought. I love to see Evans riding off into the sunset on a. It's a 3-year deal though. They're planning on Evans having a lot left in the tank. I love this move.
It feels weird hearing you being, staying healthy. It feels weird hearing you being Mr. Safe Call, saying you love Evans, who's old and injury prone. But I get it.
He hasn't missed that many games lately. He missed last year with the significant hamstring injury. Other than that, he's been fairly reliable.
Yeah, 9 last year, 3 the year before. So he's been pretty reliable. It just seems to be the age and the hamstrings are kind of catching up to him some. But moving left to right, we had, just for reference, we have 2 players staying on their teams. We have Alec Pierce and Rashid Shaheed staying on their teams. We have Wan'Dale Robinson going to the Tennessee Titans. Titans actually getting some type of receiver, which is good for Cam Ward because he only had the ghost of Calvin Ridley, who broke his leg and retired seemingly. Romeo Doubs to the Patriots. That happened earlier today. And Michael Pittman, soon after the news of Alec Pierce getting extended, Pittman got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, 2 players staying on the team, 3 moving.
Here's a fucking wild one that I just had to break my calculator out to do the math on. Alec Pierce, he got a $116 million contract. $84 million of it is guaranteed. It's fucking $84 million guaranteed. So last year, his first really impact season he's ever had, he had 1,000 yards, and we talked about this a week or 2 ago, on 47 catches. It was like him and Deshaun Jackson had an identical season. Deshaun Jackson in 2010 and Alec Pierce last year, 47 catches. So, busting out the calculator here, he got $84 million guaranteed, pretty much just based on his breakout season last year. That is $1.78 million per catch that he earned by having that season last year.
That's crazy.
I don't get it, really. I mean, I get that he was the belle of the ball once George Pickens, was franchise tagged, but that just seems, even in today's astronomical fucking money wise, why am I missing the word here? In the cap, the salary cap.
Yeah.
That seems like way too much. I mean, whatever. I guess they love him there. I'm sure he's a good locker room guy, but that just seems like way too much money. I hope it doesn't fuck them over or limit them from continuing to improve the team. But yeah, I just had to do the math on that. If just his guaranteed money, he earned $1.78 million per catch from what he did last year.
You always see that with some, one wide receiver every free agency. You look back, the one that comes to mind is Christian Kirk getting a $84-85 million deal with the Jaguars over 4 years and such. You always see one guy in a contract year does great things, and it's hit or miss if he continues. That's going to be very interesting. I mean, Alec Pierce looked great as a deep threat. Part of it might have been Pittman getting a chunk of the coverage. Vice versa. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think this is more a value increase for Josh Downs than Pierce, not Pittman, Pierce. Josh Downs moving up to wide receiver 2, him having a chance to do something finally. I do think the Colts add a 3rd or 4th round wide receiver. Fortunately, I kept looking to try and see what the Colts got back for Pittman. And it seemed like the Colts just decided we need to get Pittman out of here for some reason. The Colts received a 26th 6th round pick and sent the Steelers Michael Pittman and their 2026 7th round pick. So they moved up 1 round from the 7th to the 6th
To dump
to give
Michael
up Pittman, who then signed a $60 million deal with the Steelers. That seems absurd to me that Pittman, that good, that potential, you can only get, you had to throw Pittman with a 7th to get a 6th.
Yeah.
That seems like they just wanted him out of the building for some reason.
It's the exact trade that the Jets did for Geno Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
And Pittman's good. Pittman has been a successful, productive NFL wide receiver, and like he's still in his prime. So I'd say, regardless how it ends up being for fantasy, fucking good for the Steelers. What a great move by them. I mean, they just basically for free. I mean, not for free. They had to pay him. I guess that certainly factored in that the Colts knew that he was like up for a contract, I guess, and they didn't want to have to pay him given they just paid Alec Pierce $1.7 million per reception. They're also trying to work out a deal with Jones. But yeah, I mean, good on the Steelers for this.
Yeah,
him and Metcalf are certainly a respectable 1-2 at wide receiver.
Well, and without thinking about it, I was talking with another Fantasy Holic member earlier, Tier 1 quarterback. We're talking about vacated targets. We're going to look into that a lot and kind of maybe make a post about that of teams that have the most vacated targets and the team with the fewest vacated targets from 25 to 26 to talk about some of these wide receivers that might have unforeseen value because their team all of a sudden has a ton of targets to give. The Steelers have over 200 vacated targets because, which doesn't seem like it, but you have Calvin Austin, Jonnu Smith, Kenneth Gainwell had 190, 200 between them. So Pittman slides right in, takes a bunch of those targets. You have Dowdle, who's a rushing running back, who's going to do well there. Like Pittman there does, I think is going to do very well. On the flip side, like kind of going back through Alec Pierce, there's some vacated targets, but you expect them to pick up another wide receiver. And again, as I mentioned, I think that's more Josh Downs as a boost on the Colts offense than Alec Pierce for the vacated targets. Rashid Shaheed, same situation, no real vacated targets. Wan'Dale Robinson, were there actually enough targets to say there were vacated targets with how the Titans offense looked? So I like that. Romeo Dobbs, there's a lot of vacated targets because Stephon Diggs. So like it's gonna be very interesting to see some of those. But I love Wan'Dale Robinson move by the Titans, but I think they need a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2. Romeo Dobbs, same thing. I love it for my Patriots, but he's a wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1. I want to see the Titans, Patriots, for Cam Ward's sake, for my Patriots' sake, they need to get something in there, whether that's one of the top wide receivers is rookie class. I think there's a drop off between the top 3 and everyone else versus AJ Brown is still out there potentially to be traded, which seems crazy. I know there's rumors of teams offering a 1st and 2nd and Philly saying, no, we want 2 firsts or we want 2 firsts and a player or something like that. But there are some of these teams that still have some moves that they need to make to really take that step up. But I kind of the non-Mike Evans wide receivers that changed teams, I love their landing spots for their potential.
Yeah, that's crazy that the Patriots didn't retire number 87. Just kidding. Jawan Jennings is looming. I kind of like to see Jennings in Indy.
Work.
I like Pierce. He played great, but to give him that kind of bag without any quarterback certainty, Jones got the transition tag. He's nothing set in stone there. They could have given Alec Pierce $116 million to be catching passes from Riley Leonard. That sucks. Not good. Not good.
And when you hear about contract talks with Daniel Jones, you hear the Colts offered him $33 million a year for 3 years or something, and Daniel Jones says, "No, I want closer to 50." And you're like, Oh, so he's, he got the money from the Giants. He's trying to get the money from the Colts right now before who knows what happens post injury. So it's very interesting to hear that about what they're doing after spending all that money on Alec Pierce. I think they did that expecting they wouldn't have to spend as much on Daniel Jones, and now they're realizing, crap.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm breaking the seal. You guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at Wan'Dale Robinson, he's not a sexy name when you think about it, but he's someone who had 140 targets the last 2 years and did decently well with it. Had some touchdowns, not the best yardage, but he's someone that, again, is an incredibly serviceable wide receiver too on a team that I'm excited to see Cam Ward actually get some weapons. You're not going to see A.J. Brown go back to the Titans, but if the Titans could get some wide receiver with that 5th overall pick that they have, or 4th, that would be very interesting.
You don't want a receiver going to 10. You don't want Tate or Lemon going to.
When you think of Cam Ward last year, you didn't have an offensive line really. You didn't have any receiving threats that there was. If you're going to a situation to succeed, the Titans is one of the last ones in the league last year. So getting him some actual receivers similar to like Bryce Young and them getting Ted McMillan last year, like get your quarterback you drafted 1 overall some weapons to see if he can actually do something. The Titans need to do that. Now, there's thought, depending on what the Titans will do, if they're going to take Jeremiah Love 4th overall. I've seen some say Love. I've seen some say, Tate or Tyson or Lemon, depending on your flavor. I've seen some say offensive line or offensive tackle of some type. But I think the Titans in their 1st or 2nd pick are going to take a wide receiver. With me, I think the drop-off is significant enough that if you're getting a wide receiver, you need to do that in the 1st round and get one of those top 3. But, I love Wan'Dale. Give Cam Ward a chance to succeed, to know if he's your franchise quarterback, and not just say, well, you can't do anything. It doesn't matter. You don't have weapons. If you can't do anything, we're not getting you weapons. Like, no, get him some good receivers. Go out there, get him 2 receivers in the draft. If you don't take someone in the 1st round, like get him something to work with. But I think Wan'Dale, again, underrated in his impact over the last 2 years for the Giants. Great pickup for the Titans.
I don't know. I liked what Wan'Dale. I liked his opportunity with Dart across from Neighbors. The Titans were playing better. They've got Aya Manor. Chimere DK looked incredible. I did not see that coming at all. If you give the Titans a 1st or 2nd round receiver, like you said, now it's just a murkier situation where you've got like 4 viable receivers. I hate the Wan'Dale move so much. I liked him better with the Giants. Oh, gosh, unless he's like the go-to slot guy all season and the Titans keep improving like they did the last half of the year. Gosh, it opens the door for the Giants, but I hate it for Wan'Dale. There's just not enough meat on the bone in that offense.
We must have been watching different games if you liked Aya Manor and DK with what they did, because that's nothing they did spoke anything other than wide receiver 3 or 4 to me.
Well, I'll also say that they just paid Wan'Dale a shit ton of money, and he's very much a slot receiver. So I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to be their every down slot receiver this year. So it's hard to say that they're not going to just use him the way that the Giants used him. I don't think they're going to try to make him some type of like outside, contested catch deep bomb player. He's like I think him and my wife are like the same height. So I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't just use him the way that he's shown to be used well. But we'll see. The who they draft matters. I don't think I agree. I don't think DK and AO matter or anything, but just like support staff. DK is a very good return man. He like set some type of record for overall yards by a rookie receiver, most of it being return yards. But yeah, so he has a niche there, but they'll probably draft a high end wide receiver, and it'll be Wandale and him as the 1-2, and Ayo Manor and DK just kind of chipping in on it. I'm not saying I think this is like some big boost to Wandale's value. He's probably I don't have it in front of me, but he's probably right around where he should be as far as like value. Any Wandale shares I have, I'm not really looking at them like any better or worse than they were, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, DK had almost 1,600 return yards. I think it would be. I think the Titans will keep him returning, which will limit him on the wide receiver side, just because of how great he was doing that. That's a great point. I mean, if your fantasy league has return yards, points for return yards, like he was someone you could start. Granted, not many have that. I have seen some of us, resurgence up of people pushing for that. I think with the new kick returns being more consistent per game, that it's not it's more of a consistent potential scoring that some people like. But yeah, DK did amazing things with punt returns this last year. From there,
any other thoughts on these guys? I guess if the Patriots don't really do anything at wide receiver beyond this, you certainly have to like Dobbs' value. With Diggs leaving, I mean, he would just immediately step into a pretty substantial role there. If they bring in like a Juwan Jennings or Keenan Allen even, or draft a pretty high end one, then I'd say it's just as cluttered and messy as it was last year. But yeah, if they don't do anything else, Dobbs could lead them in receptions.
Good Lord, I hope they don't bring in another Jalen Polk or else. Oh, gee.
yeah.
High second round pick.
Yeah, I don't know what we're thinking. I mean, we have a good, my Patriots have a good set of wide receiver threes that they can figure out what to do with. Keyshawn Boutte, Matt Collins, Demario Douglas, like they've all had their moments, but I think as we saw this last year, even with Stephon Diggs, they were all wide receiver threes, really. And you could mix and match depending on who was having a good game, could get more stuff. I do really like Dobbs. He had some great games with the Packers. He has that potential. But again, he's a wide receiver too. And that was the story with the Packers is they were all just wide receiver twos and trying to figure out, is someone going to be able to be a wide receiver one this week? And I think that's the thing with Dobbs and the Patriots. Like I would love Dobbs more if we traded for AJ Brown, because Dobbs isn't the wide receiver one there. He's a wide receiver two. He's going to get less coverage. He's going to have this big guy on the opposite side of the field that can take a lot of the pressure off him. Like I would love something like that. No idea if that's going to happen. If there's many different wide receivers that rumors are saying the Patriots are looking after. You can draft someone. I have no idea, but I would love Dobbs more if we had a higher end wide receiver in there. On the flip side, talking about some of these teams, more Patriots and not Patriots, more Packers and Giants, because for targets gained on teams for them leaving. For me, the Packers, it's still a smorgasbord of crap, for lack of a better term. Like you still have a ton of wide receivers that you really don't have a wide receiver one. Like Matthew Golden didn't do anything. He was your first round pick last year. Jaden Reed can't stay healthy, but has potential. Christian Watson has potential, can't stay healthy. Dotavion Wicks still is there doing decent things at times. Like, it seems like if you could get a true wide receiver one, figure out what's going on there. But none of those guys have increased in value for me because I don't know. I still don't know what's going to happen to any of them, even with Dobbs leaving. Do you guys have any trust or think of anyone that's going to do well with Dobbs leaving for the Packers? Or are you still avoiding that wide receiver room like the plague, like we were saying last year?
I mean, Dobbs leaving is only a plus for what's left there. I mean, it's just he was pretty steadily targeted guy. So you figure that's just more targets to Reed and Watson and Tucker Kraft. So I think it is somewhat of a boost to them. I don't think the Packers really draft another guy. They finally drafted a first-round wide receiver last year. Look how that went. So I think they're probably going to be, gun shy about taking another one. So I think Christian Watson is more interesting. I think Jaden Reed is more interesting just because they're kind of afterthoughts. But at the end of the day, they're all that's there at this point. So, I mean, they're going to just get a decent amount of targets by default. That pass catching room is now somewhat less cluttered without Dobbs, so I think it's a boost for those guys. And then
for reference, I just had it up real quick. Watson missed, I think it was 10 games. Reed missed 10 games. Watson missed 7. Kraft missed like 9. And Dobbs had about 85 targets. So if everyone stays healthy, in reality, they kind of lost some targets overall, even though Dobbs is gone, just because of how many games everyone missed due to injury, which is interesting. Just how devastated their core was just from injuries, which is good for them because of how deep they were at that position. But also when everyone's healthy, it makes it more of a mess even too.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to be excited about the Packers wide receiver room, but it might even go far enough that, in particularly Watson and Reed become values at how lowly they're drafted and traded for and looked at. So we'll see. Well, there's still some decent name free agents out there that the Packers maybe bring one of them in, or maybe they surprise us and draft like a day 2 wide receiver or something like that, and then I would consider it exactly as gross and cluttered as it was with Dobbs there. The last thing that I wanted to bring up and touch on before we bounce, since we're on the wide receivers here, there's a guy by the name of DJ Moore that got traded to the fucking Buffalo Bills in our last episode that we never even had a chance to touch on. I'd just like to point out, and I did have to pull up the South Harmon lab tool to check this and verify, DJ Moore is literally my highest rostered wide receiver in my giant portfolio of Dynasty leagues. So
unsurprising.
A big day for Castle Black when he got dealt to the Bills for high dollar, and he's going to be Josh Allen's top target. So cheers to the Bills organization and the Bears organization for helping their boy Castle Black out. Man, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, you're right. So much has happened. We forgot that happened before or since we met last week.
That was a lifetime ago.
It was 5 days ago.
Yeah, I love that for the Bills. I mean, I know there has been some talk, both among fantasy holics as in general, that it's seems very similar to Amari Cooper going to the Bills.
Hopefully,
Amari Cooper was a couple years older. Amari Cooper is close to 30, not 27. DJ Moore has done great things with bad quarterbacks. Like, who is his quarterback in Carolina when he was doing well? Exactly. None of us can remember. Like, it's something that
Will Greer, I think.
The ghost of Cam Newton.
Yeah. I love that. I even like this for Shakir because I never thought he was a team's wide receiver one. I always thought he should be the 2. I think Shakir is going to get more quality targets and snaps. That I think just overall the Bills' offense is going to flow so much better. That I do love this for the Bills more than the Bears. I'm still hesitant, I will say, on Luther Burden, in the extent of when you look at DJ Moore snaps, he more played out wide. Luther Burden's a slot. So if anything, this is going to give more targets to Odunze, especially since Caleb Williams also targets wide out routes more than slot routes. That favors those couple things favor Odunze being more of a value potential increase than Burden. I know Burden had the third highest yards per route run. He was incredibly efficient. I worry about Burden some. I don't think, for me, again, this is an increase in Odunze's value, not Burden. But I mean, more targets are more targets. So I like it for both, especially just because of all the receiving weapons the Bears have. Like, if anything, I also think this is a great thing for Loveland. Like, he was really turning on last year. Loveland is, I think, going to be a great asset to have if you held on to him or waited long enough for him to really turn on.
Dude, Luther Burden is so fucking wildly overvalued at this point. And this could easily be a guy that I just take the L on the way that I did with not liking George Pickens last year. But Jesus, can we pump the fucking brakes on Luther Burden?
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm agreeing with you. Like, he had a decent game and then like a very good game towards the end of last year. And that's it. That's all. He was a second round draft pick. He could barely get snaps, and he had 2 good games. And this motherfucker is like anointed. Like, he is like the wide receiver 15 overall in dynasty value. And the DJ Moore trade only even poured more gas on that fire. So that is just somebody that I am so fucking out on at that value. If he becomes,
but it's also it's the Odunze uncertainty. Odunze, like, missing a game like that, and when Moore is gone and Odunze's out, and Burden's a wide receiver 1, that's like artificially inflating his value.
I guess. I mean, if I would take, I'll take Odunze over Burden 1,000 times out of 1,000. Odunze was like a blue chip, fucking awesome college prospect. Burden had flags galore. It's the reason he wasn't a first round draft pick. Again, I could absolutely be fucking wrong on this. I could be looking like a moron for saying that Burden isn't going to live up to this, but I am fucking out as far as these prices on Burden, man. And now again, I was out already. Now that Moore got traded, that just fucking boosted him up even farther. Not for me. Let me look at KTC.
I'm not sure. I had that up. I was pulling up. I wrote the I wrote the post on DJ Moore being traded, and I looked into Burden some because I'm like, what are the fantasy impacts? And I only looked at Burden from week 10 on because that's when he started playing more. That was after their bye week.
Yeah, he wasn't even getting
slow to get on. He's injured in the offseason. It's a complicated Ben Johnson offense, so it took him time to really get snaps. So week 10 on, Burden averaged, he had a 54% snap share. He was only on the field for 55% of the time. When during the weeks Odunze was out, 54 went up to 57. He only was on the field 3 more times when your wide receiver 1 was out. In his college career, when players are playing almost every snap, Burden never had more than a 75% snap share on a season. So that's where I keep talking about. I think Burden is explosive. He has this speed, but he isn't an every down player. we saw it in college when he was the wide receiver one on his team. He wasn't an every down player. So I think that limits his ceiling and his ability is that he's going to have these explosive plays, but he's someone that you keep on the sideline, you keep healthy, you don't wear him out, and he's going to break a new one, break a 70-yard flea flicker, but he's not this every down consistent guy. And that's why, for me, I would have loved to have seen DJ Moore stay with the Bears because the consistency and how I think Burden is being used and is going to be used. I mean, just when that trade broke for DJ Moore, Burden was the wide receiver 21 on Keep Trade Cut. He's jumped up to what? Wide receiver 15, 16?
16 right now.
Yeah. Like that to me is a sell high. And again, I'll take the L if that happens. But if you're able to sell him at wide receiver 16 and he pans out, you still got wide receiver 16 prices. Like I just traded Burden for a mid 27 first. And that's the team also looks a little rough that with an injury or two, that could be an early 27 first. And we're already hearing how deep the 27 class is. I'll take that reroll. I'll take it if I'm wrong, but I'm selling now high. And I'm sure depending on who you're at or where you're at, you might be able to get a little more than that. But granted, 27 draft picks are very hard to come by and very difficult to trade for. But even you're right, Brian. Like he had fantasy wise, he had a 19.8 point game and a 27.8 point game, and that was it. Uh-huh. And other than that, he didn't score over 15 points besides those two games, and he scored over 10 points twice besides those two games. Like, and those were all times in the second half of the season outside of that first big game. Like I worry about him. I worry about that value. I'm getting rid of that value. I'm buying a Dunze because I think a Dunze and Burden are back-to-back wide receiver 15, 16.
Literally, yeah.
Give me a Dunze every time. Like, yep. I agree with you there. It's give me a Dunze, give me Loveland on that offense.
So here's looking at Keep Trade Cut, Luther Burden at wide receiver 16. All of these players are listed as less valuable than him. Every rookie wide receiver. Okay, so basically, when you're saying that all these rookie wide receivers are worth more than him, or sorry, that he's worth more than all of them, that's like saying that he's worth more than the 102 or the 103 in rookie drafts, because that's what Carnell Tate and Lemon or Tyson are going to be, is the rookie 102, 103. So he's worth more than all the rookies. He's worth more than Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Jamison Williams, Zay Flowers. I think I'd literally take almost every single one of those pieces over Luther Burden. I mean, I'm kind of the far end of it. I know he's such a dynasty darling at this point and getting so much hype up, and the more trade adds to it. But I didn't mean to turn this into the Luther Burden hour. I just wanted to kind of celebrate having so many shares of DJ Moore.
Yeah, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. It's a big big day for me, or was a big day for me, I guess.
It's a great day to own DJ Moore.
Yes, sir. I think we could probably tap at that point, huh? Hour 48. I think we touched on all the positions. We even got to add in my DJ Moore celebration there. Yeah,
love it. We'll talk more about any other moves that happen between now and next week, because there are still some good free agents that are out there. We'll talk about more deeper fantasy implications on some of these guys once the news has kind of settled down some more. We see a little more of what's going on. We can kind of tell a little more, give you deeper thoughts than kind of what we have, maybe some analytics, some vacated targets, different things like that. We'll be able to dive a lot deeper into this stuff over the next few weeks leading up to NFL draft, which is 6 weeks. 5-6 weeks, which is crazy to think it's this soon. We'll be diving into rookies more and more over the next few weeks as well.
Everything we talked about tonight could be completely derailed by a trade or a draft pick. More competition for targets, a whole new play calling scheme, targets divvied up differently, and that's why we play this game.
Yes, sir.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, have a great week, everyone. Enjoy
Thanks for
free
your time.
agency, especially stuff that's going to happen tomorrow. Look on our page. We'll be continuing to posting all the news. Hope your teams are signing the players you want.
Catch you next Tuesday.